I glanced at my iPad, its screen illuminated with the harsh light of Britney's latest TikTok. I didn't realize how much that little device could hurt until now. There she was, my granddaughter, grinning with a cartoon filter that made her appear more like a grotesque caricature than the lovely young woman I had raised. "You won't believe what this pathetic old woman did," she squealed, her voice high-pitched and mocking. I felt a knot form in my stomach as the video rolled. There I was, stumbling through a dance challenge she insisted we do together, all for her content. At the time, I thought it was just for fun. But now, with millions of views flashing before my eyes, I understood the truth. I had unwittingly become a punchline. The comments raced past like a speeding train, each one more scathing than the last. Pathetic. How cringy, and just give it up, Grandma. With each comment, a deeper sense of betrayal washed over me. I set the iPad aside, letting out a shaky breath. I bought that damn device, funded her college, and even encouraged her dreams. Was this really what my support had amounted to? A digital mockery? That afternoon, I had expected laughter and shared memories, not this. The room around me seemed to shrink as the reality of her actions settled in. My heart felt heavy with the weight of regret and confusion. I had poured my love into her, hoping to build a foundation of gratitude. Instead, she had built a platform of disgrace. "Grandma, it's just a joke," she had said dismissively when I confronted her. I could still hear the laughter of that birthday party. The spark of joy had quickly turned to ash in my mouth, and here I sat, a bewildered woman silently absorbing the fallout of my own naivety. Before we continue, please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and subscribe to Never Too Old channel. We're creating a community of incredible people who know that our best chapters can happen at any age. Now, back to the story. When I think of Britney, I often find myself back in that small living room years ago, her little fingers tracing the edges of old family photos. She had been so innocent then, just a girl trying to make sense of her parents' divorce. Her father leaving shattered her world, and for a moment I felt a protective instinct swell within me, something deeper than mere duty. I wanted to shield her at all costs. After the divorce, my role shifted, not just a grandmother, but a lifeline. I worked my modest job as an archivist, preserving histories and memories, while quietly stashing away funds to ensure Britney never missed out. Private school, dance lessons, her first car. I gave and gave, thinking it was making her stronger, teaching her gratitude. I remember clearly the soft thumps of her ballet shoes against the wood floor, the way she would leap and twirl, her face a picture of sheer joy. That's what I'd hoped for, joy. Each class I financed felt like an investment in her happiness. But slowly, something began to shift. "What's so boring about gardening? Look at these roses," I would say, expecting her to understand the value in the flowers blooming against the struggle of weeds. Yet every response from her was steeped in adolescent disdain. "It's so old-fashioned, Grandma. Get with it." I chuckled at her impatience, grounding every lesson in the earth under my nails. Patience is a virtue, I used to say, but I also feared that my constant support created an insatiable hunger within her. Each time soon after, when she came to me for yet another expensive gadget or an upgrade for her content, I sensed entitlement creeping in, inch by inch, like a vine strangling my prized marigolds. In my guarded heart, I held on to hope that it would teach her the value of hard work. Someday she'll understand. I often told myself while pulling weeds, their stubborn roots a mirror of my own thoughts. I could hear my mother's voice echo in my head. Nurturing requires sacrifice, but not without teaching respect. There were afternoons when we would sit on the porch, lemonade in hand, and I would try to engage her in conversation. I would share snippets of wisdom from my past, how I collected antiques through thrift shops, and how each item told a story of its own, a little slice of history. Yet every time I shared a cherished memory, she seemed adrift on some faraway cloud of her own making, her eyes sparkling only for her phone. As Britney dove deeper into her social media world, I felt the distance between us grow. Those early days encouraged me to keep giving her all the riches I could muster, thinking it would instill a deep sense of gratitude. Each gift wrapped with love fell flat, met with texts rather than heartfelt thanks. Sometimes I pondered whether I had raised a child or a monster, unknowing of how close we had drifted. Then came the unforgettable day of her birthday party. My heart swelled with pride as I presented her with a professional camera, something I hoped would fuel her passion. In my mind, that camera represented all the opportunities I wanted to provide. Yet how could I have known that it would spiral into something that would unearth all her entitlement and lift my heart to expose the true conflict between us? I thought filming a TikTok dance would bridge the gap, a lighthearted way to connect. Perhaps in my unguarded optimism, I believed it would reflect our bond, solidifying my place in her life. Instead, it became a stage for her to publicly mock me, and as I replayed that moment in my mind, the weight of misplaced trust buried heavier than any expectation I'd ever had. The day of Brittany's birthday party sticks with me, like a weed I just can't pull. The air was crisp as I decorated the living room, filling it with soft pastel balloons that floated above her smiling photos from years past. I was hoping for a day full of joy, forgetting for a moment the turmoil we'd faced since her father left. As guests began to drift in, I felt a pulse of excitement welling up in me. Hearing their laughter sparked hope within me that this party would be one to remember. But I spotted Brittany in the corner, busy snapping selfies with that fancy camera I had bought her. She seemed more into her phone than the moment. I waited for her to notice me. "Hey, Grandma, come here," she called out, her voice bright and cheerful. At that moment, I wanted nothing more than to connect, so I gathered my apron and headed over, pushing aside thoughts of the special cake I'd spent all morning baking. "Let's film a TikTok dance. It's the latest trend," she said, her eyes sparkling. I should have sensed the trap, but all I could think was that maybe this would be our moment. "All right, but just this once," I warned, trying to sound casual even though my heart was racing. Watching her run through the steps, I felt the rhythm thumping in my chest, but when it was my turn, everything fell apart. I stumbled and fumbled, struggling to keep up with her energy. The laughter around us faded, replaced by awkward snickers. "Not like that, Grandma. You've got to loosen up." Brittany giggled, but there was something sharper lurking behind that laughter. I felt heat creeping up my neck. Was she enjoying my struggle? The guests were watching, and I couldn't help but feel like a fool standing there. I took a deep breath, fighting to stay light-hearted. "Okay, let's try again," I said, forcing a smile. I wanted to hold on to some shred of dignity, but inside, shame and frustration battled for control. As I gave it another go, I realized Brittany wasn't filming for fun. She wanted content for her social media, not to connect as family. With every laugh, I felt the invisible walls between us tightening. It stung. After we finished, I wiped my brow, panting but trying to stay upbeat. "Was that okay?" I asked, half hoping it would satisfy her. But as I glanced at her phone, I caught a glimpse of what she was recording, a video meant to showcase my awkwardness. "Just wait," she grinned, her eyes gleaming with that all-too-familiar delight. My heart sank. Was she serious? I suddenly understood. She was setting me up to go viral at my own expense. The knot in my stomach twisted tighter, and I retreated to my room for a moment to breathe. Sitting on the edge of my bed, I opened my emails and froze. There it was. "Watch my grandma make a fool of herself." It felt like a slap in the face. I didn't even need to click it. The title said it all. The comments replayed in my mind. Pathetic, cringe, and more. How could she do this to me? Everything I'd sacrificed now felt worthless, overshadowed by this mockery. I took a deep breath and opened the TikTok app, my heart racing. When the notification popped up about Brittany's latest video, dread washed over me. The title read, "Watch my grandma make a fool of herself." "Brittany," I called, my voice knocking the jovial atmosphere off balance. The laughter faded as she turned to me, eyebrows raised in mock concern. This time, I wouldn't back down. "Was that all just a game to you?" My voice quaked, but it held steady. Guests exchanged uncertain glances. All around, I felt the weight of judgment beyond the four walls of our home. "It was just a funny video, Grandma. Don't you want to be part of the trend?" Jamie, one of her friends, piped up, her smile toothy yet naive. They didn't understand. This wasn't about likes or shares, it was about respect, and I felt that slipping away like a sand grain from my hand. Brittany waved her hand dismissively, brushing off what I had said. "Everyone does it, Grandma. It's just for fun." Her words dripped with misunderstanding. I wanted to shake some sense into her, but as I stood there, the silence stretched, thickening like fog in the room. "No," I retorted, drawing on an inner strength simmering beneath the surface. "You crossed a line. I can't believe you'd humiliate me for views, for likes." The room held its breath, waiting for her response. Brittany looked taken aback, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. "Come on, it's just a joke," she shot back, but her defiance felt weak, almost desperate. In that moment, I was resolved. I couldn't let her continue down this path of indifference. "You'll see. It's not all fun and games when you lose the respect of those who care about you," I countered, feeling that my words might finally reach her. The air felt charged in the living room, a tension settling uneasily between Brittany and me as her friends chatted and laughed around us. I watched the festivities unfold, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. It was her birthday, and I wanted it to be memorable, but the undercurrent of conflict threatened to taint the celebration. "I thought we were having fun," Brittany said, her tone defensive. I sensed the uncertainty in her eyes, a flicker of doubt behind her bravado. "Fun doesn't have to come at the cost of respect," I replied, keeping my voice steady. I leaned in slightly, trying to convey that I cared without escalating the situation further. "But everyone does it," she protested, her annoyance clear. "It's just a joke. People love it." I could see the eagerness for validation in her expression, warped as it was by the need for social media approval. I took a deep breath. "I know it seems harmless, but it's not," I said firmly, holding her gaze. I refused to let my disappointment turn into anger, even though a simmering resentment began to bubble quietly inside me. "You just don't get it," she shot back, crossing her arms defiantly. To her, the world revolved around the applause of friends, cheap laughs and likes at any cost. It irked me in ways I couldn't clearly articulate. I sensed that pushing further wouldn't help, and I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me upset. Instead, I decided to step away from the tension, letting my silence speak volumes instead. "It's your birthday. Let's focus on celebrating you," I suggested, leaning into the moment. I offered her a tight-lipped smile, knowing that battling this out in front of her friends wouldn't serve any purpose. Brittany hesitated, glancing back at her friends before relenting. "Fine." The dismissive tone she took prickled at something deep inside me. I turned toward the kitchen, letting out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Instead of feeling defeated, I found clarity. Sometimes the best way to navigate a storm was to step back and observe. As I busied myself slicing another piece of cake, I recalled the vibrant colors of the flowers I had chosen for her birthday, blooming brightly despite the shadows creeping in around us. Just then, Jamie slipped into the kitchen, her expression knowing. "Brittany's really something, huh?" she asked, a hint of bemusement in her voice. "She is," I replied, my tone apathetic. I didn't feel the need to elaborate. Brittany's charm was wearing thin, especially when she thrashed about in the shallow end of social validation. Jamie shrugged. "Youth, I guess. It's tough being a teenager." I nodded, but the commentary felt hollow. I had a good idea of the stakes, and they ran deeper than mere youthful folly. When I returned to the living room, the atmosphere had lightened somewhat, laughter filling the space again. I caught Brittany's eye and noted the self-satisfied smirk she wore, a grin that hinted at her view of the day as a victory. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was navigating dangerously close to becoming the villain in her own life story. With every shallow quip, she was building her own downfall and not even realizing it. As the party continued, I found myself in a quiet resolve. I wasn't going to waste time trying to argue with her or nag her into understanding. Instead, I remembered the power of patience and timing. I watched as Brittany mingled with her friends, never once taking her gaze away from her phone. Each ding sent ripples of excitement through her, and deep down I knew the pleasure she sought was fleeting. By the time the last of the cake was served, I felt a sense of determination swell within me. I'd let her chase temporary thrills while I positioned myself for a more significant impact later. The night droned on, and I reminded myself that her actions would eventually catch up to her. Watching her bask in attention while I remained the quiet observer fueled a flicker of anticipation. 3 days after Brittany's birthday party, I sat alone in my living room, staring at the silent television screen. I hadn't turned it on. The quiet felt safer somehow, a barrier against the noise of a world that suddenly seemed to be laughing at me. My phone lay face down on the coffee table. I couldn't bear to look at it anymore after seeing those notifications pile up. "Just harmless fun," my daughter had said when I called her in tears. "Mom, you're overreacting. Kids these days share everything online." Her dismissive tone cut deeper than Brittany's original betrayal. Even my own child couldn't see how this had wounded me. I picked up my gardening shears, considering heading outside to trim the rose bushes, but my heart wasn't in it. What was the point? My roses wouldn't judge me, true, but they also couldn't erase the sting of those comments still echoing in my mind. Pathetic old woman, they called me. Me, who had spent decades preserving history as an archivist, who had raised a family, who had quietly built a life of meaning. The doorbell's chime startled me from my thoughts. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a moment I considered not answering, but old habits die hard. I smoothed my cardigan and made my way to the door. Surprise! The woman on my porch beamed at me, her silver-streaked hair pulled into a stylish bob, arms outstretched. For a second I didn't recognize her, then it clicked. "Carol?" I gasped. "Carol Barnes?" "In the flesh. Are you going to invite me in, or have you forgotten how hospitality works since our college days?" Her laugh was just as I remembered it from nearly 50 years ago, warm and slightly mischievous. I ushered her inside, a genuine smile breaking through the cloud that had surrounded me for days. Carol had been my roommate during our final year of college. We'd kept in touch sporadically over the decades, but it had been at least 15 years since I'd seen her in person. "What brings you here?" I asked, leading her to the kitchen where I automatically began preparing tea. "Last I heard, you were enjoying retirement in Arizona." "I still am," she said, settling at my kitchen table, "but I'm visiting my niece in the city for a couple of weeks. When I saw that video, I knew I had to come see you." My hands froze on the kettle. "You saw it?" Carol's expression softened. "Bae, that's why I'm here. What your granddaughter did was cruel, and I couldn't just sit back and watch." The familiar shame washed over me again, but Carol reached across the table and grasped my hands firmly. "No," she said, reading my expression. "Don't you dare feel embarrassed. You have nothing to be ashamed of." I shook my head, fighting back tears. "It's everywhere, Carol. Millions of views. All those people laughing." My voice cracked. Carol pulled out her tablet. "Yes, people are watching, but not everyone is laughing at you. Look." She slid the tablet toward me, open to Brittany's TikTok video. I flinched, not wanting to see it again, but Carol pointed to the comments section. "Read these," she insisted. Reluctantly, I focused on the screen. Among the cruel comments were others I hadn't noticed before. "This is a disgrace. Shame on you, young lady. Your grandmother is a treasure. Whoever raised you failed to teach basic respect. I'd be honored to have a grandma willing to try something new." "This isn't funny, it's heartbreaking. Grandma deserves better." "I'd give anything to dance with my grandmother again. You don't know what you're throwing away." Each supportive comment landed like a balm on my wounded heart. I looked up at Carol, blinking back tears. "There are good people out there, Bea," she said gently. "People who see this for what it is, not humor, but humiliation, and they're on your side." I pushed the tablet away, not trusting myself to speak. Carol watched me, her head tilted thoughtfully. "You know," she said after a moment, "there's something you could do about this." "What?" I asked, my voice flat. "Ask Brittany to take it down." She already refused, said I was being dramatic. Carol leaned forward, a spark in her eyes I recognized from our college days, the look she'd get before suggesting something either brilliant or slightly reckless. "Don't ask her to take it down, make your own." I stared at her. "My own what?" "Your own TikTok account." She grinned at my startled expression. "Hear me out. Brittany thinks she can define who you are to the world? Show them who Beatrice Sterling really is. I shook my head. That's ridiculous. I'm not making videos of myself for strangers to watch. I'm 72 years old, for heaven's sake. Exactly, Carol said triumphantly. Your 72 years of accumulated wisdom, talent, and authenticity, everything those kids are desperately trying to fake. Do you know how many people would love to see real content from someone with actual life experience? I laughed despite myself. You're serious? Dead serious. Carol took a sip of her tea. Bea, I've watched you restore books that museums would envy. Your garden would make professional landscapers weep with jealousy. You know more about preserving history than most professors. Why not share that? Who would care about an old woman puttering around her garden or fixing ancient books? Carol pulled up something else on her tablet. Well, this woman is 93 and has 8 million followers for her cooking tutorials. She swiped again. This gentleman is 85 and gives woodworking lessons. 3 million followers. Another swipe. And this lovely lady is our age and shares vintage fashion tips. 5 million. I peered at the screen, genuinely surprised. These weren't polished influencers with perfect makeup and rehearsed personalities. They were simply people sharing what they loved. The internet isn't just for the young, Bea, Carol said softly, and it certainly isn't just for the shallow. What if instead of hiding from what Brittany did, you showed the world who you really are? Not as revenge, but as reclamation. I wouldn't even know where to begin, I admitted, but something was stirring inside me, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. Possibility. Carol grinned. That's why I'm here. I've got 2 weeks before I head back to Arizona, and I happen to know a thing or two about social media. You? I couldn't hide my surprise. She laughed. Don't look so shocked. I run the entire online presence for my retirement community. Those bridge tournament live streams don't set themselves up, you know. For the first time in days, I felt a genuine smile spread across my face. You're serious about this, aren't you? As a heart attack, which at our age is pretty serious. Carol winked. What do you say? Ready to show your granddaughter that you don't need filters or pranks to connect with people? I glanced around my kitchen, at the herbs drying by the window, the antique clock I'd carefully restored, the shelves of preserves from my garden. My life wasn't flashy or trending, but it was authentic. It was mine. What would I even call it? I asked, the idea taking root despite my hesitation. Carol tapped her chin thoughtfully. Something that captures your essence. Something warm, wise. Her eyes lit up. How about Grandma Bea's Wisdom and Wonders? I tested the name in my mind. It felt right somehow, dignified but approachable, not trying to be something I wasn't. All right, I said, straightening my shoulders. Let's do it. Not to get back at Brittany, but to set the record straight, to show that there's more to being a grandmother than being a punchline. Carol raised her teacup in a toast. To Grandma Bea's second act. May it be even better than the first. As we clinked cups, I felt something shift inside me, a quiet determination replacing the hurt that had consumed me. Brittany had tried to reduce me to a caricature, a momentary joke in her curated online world, but I was more than that moment. I was decades of stories, skills, and survival. And perhaps it was time the world knew it. That evening, after Carol left with promises to return tomorrow with her equipment, I found myself standing before my bookshelf, running my fingers along the spines of volumes I'd rescued and restored over the years. Each one had been brought back from the brink, pages rebound, covers revitalized, history preserved. Maybe, I whispered to the quiet room, it's time for another restoration project. Only this time, what I would be restoring was my own dignity. I picked up my phone and instead of avoiding it, I opened the camera app. My reflection stared back at me, gray hair, laugh lines, eyes that had seen 7 decades of life. Not perfect, not filtered, but real. I pressed record. Hello, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. My name is Beatrice Sterling, but you can call me Grandma Bea. Hold the phone higher, Bea. We need to see your hands working. Carol adjusted my grip on the smartphone, positioning it on the makeshift stand we'd created from books and a cookie tin. "This feels ridiculous," I muttered, carefully turning the fragile pages of the 1892 botanical journal I was restoring. 2 weeks into our TikTok experiment, and I still felt awkward in front of the camera. "Trust me," Carol insisted. "People love watching experts at work. Just pretend I'm not here." I sighed but continued my delicate work, explaining each step as I carefully reattached a loose page. "The secret is in the wheat paste. Commercial glues will damage these old papers, but this recipe dates back centuries." Later that evening, we reviewed the finished video. My hands looked steady and sure against the yellowed pages, my voice calm and confident when discussing preservation techniques. "See? Natural and authentic," Carol declared, uploading it with the caption, "Saving history 1 page at a time." Our first week had brought in exactly 43 followers, mostly Carol's friends. By week 3, that number had mysteriously jumped to nearly 2,000. "It's the book lovers," Carol explained, scrolling through comments. "They're sharing your restoration videos in their communities." I peered at the screen, adjusting my reading glasses. The comments were overwhelmingly positive. Finally, someone who knows what they're talking about. I could watch her restore books all day. My grandmother was a librarian. This brings back such wonderful memories. It was surprisingly touching. Each day, we filmed something different. Monday was gardening, companion planting secrets my grandmother taught me. Tuesday was book restoration. Wednesday featured my vintage button collection. Each one tells a story. Thursday was recipe day, and Friday became archive mysteries where I shared fascinating historical oddities from my career. The kitchen timer dinged, and I pulled out a tray of lavender shortbread cookies. "Today's recipe feature, those smell divine," Carol said, already positioning the camera. "Just set them down gently and tell us about the crystallized flowers on top." "The lavender comes from my garden," I began, suddenly realizing how naturally the words flowed now. No script, no rehearsal, just sharing what I loved. 1 month in, a notification popped up that wasn't a comment or follow. It was a direct message from Heritage Home Preserves. "Miss Sterling, we've been enjoying your canning and preserving videos. Our company specializes in artisanal preserving equipment, and we'd love to send you some of our jars and tools to feature in your content." I stared at the message in disbelief. "Carol," I called. "Someone wants to send me free canning supplies." Carol hurried in from the garden, reading over my shoulder. "Bae, that's a sponsorship offer. They want to pay you to use their products." "Pay me? That's absurd. I'm just an old woman talking about jam." Carol shook her head, laughing. "No, you're an influencer now, with," she checked the screen, "almost 15,000 followers. Quite impressive for 6 weeks of work." I considered the offer carefully. The company seemed legitimate. Small, family-owned, with values that aligned with mine. Their glass jars were made in America, not the cheap imports that always cracked during canning. "I'll only show products I would actually use," I insisted. "No pretending something is wonderful if it isn't." "Of course," Carol agreed. "Authenticity is your brand." My brand. The thought was both ridiculous and strangely empowering. 2 days later, a package arrived from Heritage Home Preserves. The following week, it was Thornfield Books offering vintage bookbinding supplies. By month 3, Gardener's Earth wanted me to showcase their organic fertilizers. Each offer I scrutinized carefully, accepting only those that felt right. Small companies, ethical practices, products I genuinely enjoyed. The money wasn't life-changing, but it was mine, earned through sharing knowledge I'd gathered over decades. One evening, while filming a buttonhole stitch demonstration, my phone rang. Brittany's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then let it go to voicemail. "Aren't you going to answer that?" Carol asked. I shook my head, returning to my stitching. "She only calls when she wants something. Let's finish this video first." The voicemail came through. "Hey Grandma, just checking in. Also, did you seriously start a TikTok account? Jamie's mom mentioned seeing you online. Call me back, okay?" Carol raised an eyebrow. "She sounds surprised." She'll be even more surprised when I don't immediately call her back, I replied, surprising myself with my own firmness. Now, where were we with the blanket stitch? Later that night, after Carol had gone to her niece's house, I scrolled through my growing collection of videos. There I was, gardening in the morning light, my hands dirty but confident. There I was, explaining the history behind a Civil War-era button. There I was, laughing as my soufflé collapsed dramatically. No filters, no exaggerated reactions, just me, Beatrice Sterling, exactly as I was. A notification appeared. @Blossom Books had tagged me in a post. If you love books, you need to follow @Grandma Bea's Wisdom. Her restoration tips saved my grandmother's Bible. Domelo Folstadrola for the Twister for Amazing Tomb. Real, authentic, words that felt right. I thought of Brittany's carefully curated feed, the identical poses, the rehearsed expressions, the desperate chase for trends. A pang of something like pity caught me by surprise. My phone buzzed with another call from Brittany. This time I answered. "Grandma, finally. Did you get my message? Are you really on TikTok?" "Hello, Brittany. Yes, I started an account, just sharing some of my hobbies." "That's unexpected." Her tone held confusion, perhaps a hint of condescension. "Need any help with it?" "Those apps can be complicated for—" "Actually, I'm managing quite well," I interrupted gently. "Carol's been helping me." "Carol? Who's Carol?" "An old friend. Listen, dear, I need to go. I'm preparing to film tomorrow's gardening segment." The silence on her end was satisfying in a way I wasn't entirely proud of. "Oh, well, good luck with that, I guess." After hanging up, I checked my latest video's stats. 20,000 views. More importantly, hundreds of comments from people saying I'd inspired them to try book restoration, or that my garden reminded them of their grandmothers. I wasn't going viral in Brittany's world of dance challenges and pranks, but I was connecting, genuinely connecting with people who valued what I had to offer. And somehow, that felt like the sweetest victory of all. "Grandma's TikTok is actually kind of cute," Brittany laughed, swiping through my latest videos while sprawled across my sofa. Her unexpected visit seemed less about seeing me and more about satisfying her curiosity. "The gardening stuff is so niche, though. You've got what, a few thousand followers?" I smiled, not bothering to correct her outdated figure. "It keeps me busy." "Well, I'm pitching to Everglow Beauty next week," she announced, straightening with pride. "Their timeless skincare line is huge. We're talking national campaign level." "That's nice, dear," I replied, serving her the tea she hadn't asked for. After she left, my phone rang, an unknown number with a Manhattan area code. "Ms. Sterling, this is Vanessa Lee from Everglow Beauty. We've been following your content and are impressed by your authentic approach." My heart stuttered. "I think you've confused me with my granddaughter. She's the influencer." "No confusion," Vanessa assured me. "We're specifically interested in you for our new age-defying authenticity campaign. Your genuine content represents exactly what today's consumers are seeking." She outlined an offer so substantial I had to sit down. "But why me?" "Audiences are tired of manufactured content. Your authenticity resonates. You've built remarkable trust metrics." She paused. "Also, we saw the original video your granddaughter posted. We prefer to partner with someone who exhibits grace under fire." That evening, I signed the contract electronically, something I'd learned to do through my TikTok journey. I never mentioned to Brittany that the very company she was pursuing had already chosen her grandmother instead. Some victories are sweeter when savored silently. My morning routine had evolved: coffee, garden check, and now analytics review. Carol had taught me well. Today's numbers showed my following had quietly surpassed 250,000. I smiled, sipping my tea as the sun warmed my kitchen. My phone buzzed, a text from Carol. "Have you seen Brittany's latest post?" Yikes. I hadn't checked Brittany's account in weeks. The last I'd heard, she was still confident about the Everglow deal. Curiosity got the better of me, and I tapped over to her profile. Her view counts had plummeted dramatically. Her latest video, normally drawing hundreds of thousands of views, barely reached 20,000. The comments section was brutal. Isn't this the girl who humiliated her grandmother? Still waiting for a real apology to your grandma. Unfollow. No talent, just meanness. Her most recent post was a dramatic close-up of her face, eyes glistening with tears that somehow never quite fell. Guys, I need to address something, she began, voice quavering. I've made some mistakes in my content journey. I never meant to hurt anyone with my videos. I'm just trying to make people laugh and spread positivity. Not once did she mention me specifically or the video that started it all. The comments called out her vagueness immediately. Name what you did wrong, or this is just damage control. Convenient timing when your views are tanking. Your poor grandmother deserves better than this. I set my phone down, feeling an unexpected wave of sympathy. Despite everything, she was still my granddaughter. That sympathy evaporated 3 hours later when my doorbell rang. Brittany burst in without waiting for an invitation, her face flushed with anger. "What did you say to Everglow?" she demanded, pacing my living room. "Hello to you too, Brittany," I replied calmly. "I haven't spoken to anyone about you. My agent says the deal fell through because of image concerns." She made air quotes with trembling fingers. "They said they're going in a different direction with their campaign. This was my big break." I kept my expression neutral, though my heart raced. I hadn't signed a confidentiality agreement, but discretion seemed wise until the campaign launched. "I'm sorry to hear that, dear. Then I find out you're getting all these sponsorships." She gestured wildly at the heritage-preserving jars arranged on my counter. "What, are you trying to compete with me now? Is this some kind of revenge?" "Brittany, I'm simply sharing my interests. Not everything is about you. Your account is taking off right when mine is struggling. That can't be a coincidence." Her voice rose sharply. "Who's really running your account? It has to be someone younger, right? No way you figured this out yourself." The accusation stung more than I cared to admit. "I learned, Brittany, the same way I learned to restore antique books or graft fruit trees. Age doesn't make me incapable of growth." She snorted, picking up her designer bag. "Whatever. Just know that I see through this whole sweet grandma act. You're just as calculated as anyone else in this business." As she reached the door, she turned back, eyes narrowed. "I'm going to expose this little scheme. My followers deserve to know you're just trying to sabotage me with this fake authenticity crap." The door slammed behind her, rattling the antique frames on my wall, photographs of family moments I'd cherished, including many with Brittany as a child. I sat down heavily, hands slightly shaking. My phone pinged with a notification from Everglow. Campaign materials arriving tomorrow. Photo shoot scheduled for Thursday. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Brittany plotted to expose me, I was about to become the face of the very campaign she'd lost. Not through manipulation or schemes, but simply by being myself. Some lessons, it seemed, would be learned the hard way. "Just tilt your chin slightly, Miss Sterling." Perfect. The photographer's camera clicked rapidly as I sat among my blooming roses, morning light filtering through the petals. The Everglow team had insisted on shooting in my own garden, calling it authentically beautiful, just like our new ambassador. The past week had been a whirlwind of preparations. Professional lighting now illuminated my humble garden. Makeup artists had enhanced my features with a subtle touch that, remarkably, still looked like me. The marketing team had worked around my natural routines rather than forcing artificial scenarios. "That's a wrap," called the director. "Beatrice, you're a natural." I laughed. At 72, I should hope I'm natural at being myself. As the crew packed up, Vanessa approached with an embossed envelope. "Before I forget, your invitation to the Everglow Influence Awards this weekend. We're unveiling the campaign there. Car service will pick you up at 6. "An awards ceremony?" I hesitated. That seems more Brittany's territory than mine. Vanessa smiled. "Trust me, you'll want to be there. It's quite the industry event." Later that afternoon, my doorbell rang. It was Carol, clutching her tablet excitedly. "They've started teasing the campaign," she exclaimed, settling beside me on the sofa. She pulled up Everglow's Instagram page where a video played. Close-up shots of hands working in garden soil, turning book pages, measuring ingredients, my hands with the tagline, "Beauty isn't manufactured, it's cultivated." "They haven't revealed your face yet," Carol explained, building anticipation. By Saturday evening, I found myself in the back of a sleek town car, dressed in a simple but elegant navy blue dress that complemented my silver hair. Carol had helped style me, insisting on comfortable low heels that wouldn't leave me wobbling. "You look radiant," she assured me, squeezing my hand as we approached the venue. "Remember, you've earned this moment." The red carpet was a blur of flashbulbs and faces I vaguely recognized from Britney's world. A few young influencers glanced curiously in my direction, clearly wondering who I was. I smiled politely, clutching my small handbag like a lifeline. Inside, the ballroom glittered with chandeliers and beautiful people. Vanessa whisked me to a reserved table near the stage. "Perfect timing," she whispered. "They're about to announce the Everglow partnership." Across the room, I spotted Britney at a table with other young influencers. She hadn't seen me yet. Her face was animated as she chatted, occasionally glancing eagerly toward the stage. My stomach knotted. Had she somehow secured the deal after all? The lights dimmed, and a spotlight hit the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 5th Annual Influence Awards." The host, a television personality I recognized but couldn't name, beamed at the audience. "Before we begin our awards presentation, we have an exciting announcement from our title sponsor, Everglow Beauty." Vanessa squeezed my hand as the Everglow CEO took the stage. For decades, beauty marketing has focused on youth, perfection, and unattainable standards, he began. "Today, we're proud to announce a fundamental shift in that approach. Our new age-defying authenticity campaign celebrates the beauty of genuine experience, wisdom, and character." The screen behind him illuminated with Everglow's logo. "Please enjoy this exclusive first look at our campaign featuring our new global ambassador." The room darkened completely. Then, to my astonishment, my face appeared on the massive screen, not airbrushed into oblivion, but beautifully lit to highlight my laugh lines and silver hair. My voice narrated over stunning visuals of my hands working with plants, books, and baking. "True beauty isn't about erasing your story. It's about honoring each chapter. Every line, every mark, they're not flaws, they're evidence of a life well lived." The room fell silent, captivated by images of me in my garden, surrounded by roses, smiling with genuine warmth. The final shot pulled back to reveal me sitting contentedly among my flowers, looking directly at the camera. Authenticity never goes out of style. The Everglow logo appeared alongside my name, Beatrice Sterling, Everglow Global Ambassador. For a moment, silence hung in the air, then applause erupted, not the polite kind, but thunderous, genuine appreciation. People were standing, some were wiping away tears. "Please welcome to the stage," the CEO announced, the face of authentic beauty, Ms. Beatrice Sterling. As I rose on slightly shaky legs, my eyes found Britney across the room. Her face had drained of color, mouth slightly open in shock. Our gazes locked for a brief moment. The recognition dawning in her eyes told me everything. This was the deal she'd been pursuing, the partnership she'd been so confident about securing. Walking to the stage felt surreal, like floating through a dream. Camera flashes intensified, now all directed at me. I accepted the CEO's outstretched hand and turned to face the audience, finding my voice despite my pounding heart. "Thank you," I said simply. "At my age, I've learned that beauty isn't something you chase, it's something you cultivate, like a garden, with patience, authenticity, and appreciation for every season." The audience erupted again. Industry executives were nodding, journalists furiously taking notes. Across the room, Britney slipped quietly from her seat toward the exit, her shoulders hunched, phone clutched in her hand. As I looked out at the sea of faces, I felt no triumph in her humiliation, only a quiet vindication. This moment wasn't about revenge, it was about reclaiming my dignity, on my own terms. And perhaps, I thought as Britney disappeared through the door, it was a lesson she needed to learn as much as I had needed to teach it. 6 months after the Everglow launch, I sat in my sunroom, filming a segment for my now weekly Tea with Bia series. My following had grown to numbers that still bewildered me. 3 million people who tuned in for gardening tips, restoration projects, and what Carol called grandmotherly wisdom for modern times. Today's question comes from Eliza in Portland, I said, reading from my tablet. She asks, how do you stay authentic when the world rewards the opposite? I smiled, stirring my tea thoughtfully. By remembering that true rewards aren't counted in likes or dollars, but in the peace you feel when your head hits the pillow each night. After wrapping up, I checked my calendar. A board meeting for the Sterling Digital Literacy Foundation was scheduled for tomorrow. The foundation, funded by my Everglow earnings, had already helped hundreds of seniors bridge the technology gap, turning potential isolation into connection. My doorbell chimed. I wasn't expecting visitors. Brittany stood on my porch, looking different, simpler clothes, less makeup, a hesitance in her posture I'd never seen before. "Grandma," she said quietly, "can we talk?" We sat in the garden, an awkward silence stretching between us. She'd lost her apartment, her sponsorships had evaporated, and she'd started working at a local boutique. "The owner says I have good taste in merchandising," she added with a small, genuine smile. "That doesn't surprise me," I replied. "You always had an eye for beauty." Her apology came haltingly, imperfect but sincere. I was so focused on being seen that I stopped seeing others, especially you. I didn't rush to absolve her. Some lessons need their full weight to be meaningful. But I offered tea and conversation, setting clear boundaries for our relationship's careful renewal. Later, as sunset painted my garden in gold, I recorded a final thought for my weekly journal entry. Fame found me when I stopped chasing it. Influence came when I focused on being influential in my own life first. I never set out to teach Brittany a lesson, I simply refused to accept the one she tried to teach me about my worth. Sometimes the most powerful statement isn't a grand declaration, but the quiet persistence of being unapologetically yourself. Like my roses, I chose to bloom where I was planted, even when others saw only weeds. So, that's my story. I'd love to hear what you think. Was Brittany's downfall enough, or should she have faced even more consequences? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more stories like mine.